Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer, and as always, I'm joined by economist Stephen Koukoulas. You'll find him at thekouk.com, thekouk.com, and on X using the handle thekouk. Stephen, good morning.
And a very, very good morning to you, Sean.
Oh, you're excited, Stephen. It's a massive week for the economy.
Oh, my goodness. It's the one that we've been waiting for such a long time. Labour market numbers, wages numbers, an RBA announcement, which might be the first change in interest rates in, well, what will it be, about 16 months, and the first cut, well, if we get it, in about 4 years.
Okay, so it's tomorrow. What time tomorrow do we get that?
2:30 Eastern Summertime. The RBA will have on their website. We have decided to ... And I think the overwhelming consensus is to cut rates. I think there are one or two sort of holdouts who think that they can perhaps afford to wait a little bit. And what we saw last week with some of that US inflation numbers might just give them a little bit of a pause for thought. But I think just on our own inflation, the fact that we haven't yet cut and many other people have cut rates, we'll see them go to 25 and have what we might describe as a cautious 25 basis point rate cut, sort of signaling that we're not about to do a whole lot all in a row, but just here's 25. We'll see how we go. Just a little bit of an insurance against a weaker economy later this year.
Is it hard for the Reserve Bank not to cut rates, given all the talk and the fact that they haven't said anything for a while?
Yeah, look, my understanding and observations of the RBA over, 30-something years in doing similar jobs to this one, is that when it's predominantly priced into the market. And at the moment, we've got a 90-odd% chance of a rate cut being announced tomorrow. They don't disappoint with whatever's priced in. So if there's no rate cut priced in, they won't change. If it's 80, 90% priced in, they'll tend to do that. Now, there's one or two exceptions that they have shocked the market, but they're very, very rare. And I think right at the moment, with the weight of the inflation numbers that we've been speaking about in recent weeks and just what's happening in the economy, it's okay, but probably just needs a little bit of cash flow support, if we can call a rate cut that sort of driver of the economy, that it's just going to be one of these promises and things that's going to be hard to sort of go against. That Michelle Bullock and her board will be really struggling to say, look, we can't cut yet when the numbers are sort of saying they should.
The other thing we get after the board meeting is the Reserve Bank statement on monetary policy, which is kind of like the Bible of what the Reserve Bank thinks is going on in the economy for the next 6 months or so. Because they do it every, semi-annual.
Yep,
right?
They do. And this is the one too, that the other thing that makes this so exciting for me is that they're going to be updating their forecast
Oh, Stephen.
from the last statement. And look, there's a couple of things I think we can be moderately confident about. Their forecast for GDP will probably not change much. They had a bottoming out and then a gentle recovery through 2025. Yep, that still seems to be completely valid. They may well revise down a smidge their unemployment forecast, still probably edging up over the course of this year, but maybe not as much as they were thinking. But this is where the crunch comes. They will, famous last words, be revising down their forecasts for inflation, and that's why they're going to be cutting interest rates. That a number of other, wonderful market economists who look at the CPI in fine detail, Westpac and CBA, for example, they have both come out in the last week or so and significantly revised their forecasts lower for inflation. So for the RBA not to be of the same ilk, maybe not the same decimal point on the inflation forecast, but to revise down the inflation outlook is something that they just have to do.
We also get data on the employment market, a couple of very important points of data this week.
Yeah, we do. Talk about bad timing. The day after the board meeting, we get the wage price index numbers, and wages being one of these really important drivers in services inflation, and something that the RBA maybe a year ago was a little concerned about, the gold wage price spiral that they used to go on about. That is thankfully proven not to be the case, because we've already had wages peaking at 4.3% about a year ago. The numbers that come out on Wednesday will probably confirm annual wages growth down to the low threes, I think we can call it, 3.2, 3.3%. So, can I use the Goldilocks? Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. That sort of low 3% wages growth is sort of the thing that makes everybody happy.
Yep.
And then on Thursday, we get the monthly labour force numbers, and boy, oh boy, have they been resilient. We've had that every month, I think, for 6-10 months. We've had an upside surprise to the employment result. And as we sit here now, we've got an unemployment rate of 4.0%. It would be no surprise if we're just overdue for a statistical down blip. It'll be interesting to see whether we've just got a little bit of that labour market catching up to the weaker economy that we had last year. And so all eyes after the RBA decision, where is the labour market? Wages, employment and unemployment rate.
It may not feel like it for many people, but an unemployment rate of 4 or thereabouts, wage rises of kind of just over 3, inflation of just over 3, just under 3, and a rate cut. That ain't a bad economy.
Look, I got into trouble for saying this on X recently, that in a way, if you take a complete and utter step back from all of the debate about rates and politics and elections and all this other stuff, if you were to say to most policymakers, be they government-related people, Treasury officials, RBA officials, and said, look, in the next few years, if we were to have an unemployment rate hovering around 4%, an inflation rate tracking towards 2.5%, having been a problem previously, but sort of hanging around between 2.25% and 2.75%, with the budget in reasonably sound shape, maybe a small deficit this year, wages growth a little above 3%, you'd say, look, that's pretty bloody good.
It
doesn't happen very often that you get that, that quadrella of results, and here we are, we've got them.
Well, Stephen, enjoy the next few days. You'll be exhausted by next week.
Oh, I'm going to be loving it. So much to look at, and by this time next week, we'll have a much better idea on what the RBA is thinking and the labour market trends.
Enjoy that, Stephen. Enjoy the week.
Will do.
That was economist Stephen Koukoulas, better known as The Kook. You can find him at thekook.com and follow him on X using the handle The Kook. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.